Hello guys, once again it's Matt, and today we have another video. Thank you all the members, all the patrons, make sure to subscribe. And I already did a video like this a very long time ago, and I wanted to do again another of these. Which of the aircraft that we have in the game after the many updates that we have since that video can use Fox 3 missiles without an addition of new aircraft? Or in general, I did a kind of a different video back in the day. I was talking more about the countries, but I'm going to specifically talk about the aircraft that can actually have Fox 3 missiles being added to them if they come to the game in the next patch, right? Aircraft that could already receive it without we needing an upgrade to it, or basically just another version or another aircraft in general. So let's start with the US. The first one, obviously, is the F-16A ADF. Remember, this is the air defense fighter version, which is basically just making the F-16As a very reliable, in a certain way, interceptor. And one of the changes that they did was to include a new radar, new IFF systems and stuff like that, together with a new missile, the AIM-120. So the AIM-120 could be used in the F-16A ADF. This is a late 80s model of it, so yeah, or a modification to the early ones as well, right? The second aircraft, and there is only two of them in the US, is of course the F-16C. If the ADF can actually carry, of course the C variant from the get-go already had the possibility of carrying the AIM-120. And of course I'm talking about the A, B's, C's variants, you know. Later models maybe not, but on the A variant, but as far as I know, any variant of the MRAM can be used in these aircraft, okay? So the US has these two aircraft. Remember, the F-14s cannot use those, and these F-4s and stuff, nobody else can use these missiles. So if they want more aircraft to have MRAMs, they should be adding more aircraft. And remember, the Block 10 could not use that, okay? It doesn't even have the IFF antenna that the other ones have over here, for example. So it's an older aircraft in the sense that it wasn't upgraded to it. So even though they're very similar to it, technically they could, but in real life, the ADF was the main A variant that received those missiles. For Germany, it's kind of problematic. There's nothing right now that can actually carry the MRAM or any Fox 3 missiles. Literally nothing. If they want to add something to Germany, they would need to add a new version of the F4F, or basically an upgrade to the existing F4F, right? So instead of being just the F4F or F4F late, sometimes called as well, it would be the ICE version or the ICE version, right? It would change the radar, the APQ-120 to an APG-65, the same as the F-18A, and of course the AV-8B Plus that is already in the Italian Tech Tree, and the addition of the AIM-120Bs, if I'm not mistaken, could be used down there. So if they want to add something for Germany, it needs to be a new aircraft, because none of these can actually use any of missiles. So if the AIM-120s are added, or any Fox 3 missiles, expect Germany to actually receive an aircraft, a new aircraft, because right now it cannot take anything. For the USSR, we have two aircraft that can actually take, well, technically three, but let's talk about the first two. Of course, Yak-141 used the Zuk radar, so yeah, it can carry 4 R-77s. Of course, it's not AIM-120s, but it's an amazing missile as well. Very, very good. You know, not gonna go through the details, but yeah, the Yak-141 could actually use that. And of course, the early 2000s modifications to the MiG-29, the SMT, of course, can actually carry 6 R-77s as well. So yeah, it's the two main aircraft that could actually carry the R-77. But of course, if you remember, we have the Su-39, and in theory, if you actually use the Copior radar over here, let's show to you guys this radar over here. If you actually use this, you can actually track targets. This radar was, for example, used in the MiG-21 UPG, for example, for the for India, right, or the 93 version of the MiG-21 BIS, right? So it's a radar that can use the R-77. There is even photos of the R-77 being displayed in this aircraft. So yeah, technically this aircraft could actually use that missile as well. No other one can actually use those missiles, okay? MiG-23s, MLDs, for example, if they want to, they can add a version of it that is the -98 that was never fully, implemented in any air force, but it would need an upgrade to it. And the original MiG-29 never used R-77s unless he gets the S upgrade to it, which changes the radar to actually be able to carry the R-77, okay? Then we go for the UK. The UK is kind of lacking, but it does have one option, the Tornado F3. The Tornado F3 actually didn't receive the AIM-120 until they did the CSP, well, the CS program, right? CSP stands for a program that they did, basically upgrading the Tornado to actually be able to carry the AIM-120 and the SRAM as well. But initially it was kind of limited in the sense that it could not use the data link updates on the AIM-120, so it would be more of a semi-active missile until it goes active. It would be a little bit different than the missiles the AIM-120 used in F-16s, for example, or the R-77. But later they did another program, which is the AEOP, which basically fixed that problem. So there are programs and upgrades done to the Tornado F3 that can actually make it usable with the AIM-120 and the SRAM as well. Some people even claim that this version of the radar is already that. So in theory, the Tornado F3 can actually have it, but since it has an 11.3 aircraft, they might add another Tornado with that upgrade. But since they have already a lot of 11.3 aircraft, it would be very cool to see just an increase in BR and the addition of the AIM-120 to it. Maybe 11.7, maybe 12.0, I don't know. It depends on how good the AIM-120s would be in the game, right? And of course later even the SRAM. For Japan, another country that suffers a little bit, no country and no aircraft here can actually take AIM-120s, or rather the AAM-4, which is the AIM-120 equivalent missile that Japan has. So unless they add the F-16 or the Mitsubishi F2 or the F-15J, there's no aircraft that can actually take the AAM-4 in here, okay? For China, we have two aircraft mainly, the J8F, which can carry the PL-12, basically equivalent missile to something like the AIM-120 that the Chinese built. So yeah, that could be an aircraft that can actually take that. And of course the MLU. The MLU used the AIM-120 as well. The only problem with it is that it only carried initially already the AIM-120 C5, so it would already have a very advanced version of the AIM-120, right? So if they want to add something like that, probably other nations will get better missiles as well. So yeah, but the MLU is a version of this aircraft that can actually take that as well. So yeah, that's basically the two aircraft in China. In Italy, we have two aircraft, of course, in the same principle as the American ADF. The F-16 ADF for Italy could actually take the AIM-120, nothing new here. And of course the AV-8B Plus as well. This aircraft uses the radar on the F-18, the APG-65, so this aircraft can actually use AIM-120s as well to defend itself. So it would be a very interesting aircraft because it's kind of slow and it doesn't turn that well compared to an F-16 or something like that. Even though it can win dogfights if you know what you're doing with the thrust vectoring, it's still lacking a little bit on the performance, but it would defend itself with an AIM-120, so that would be very cool. Of course, France only has one option, but it is an aircraft that is already added, the Mirage 2000-5F. It can obviously use the Mika missile, and it can actually use a lot of them. It can take like 6 or 8 missiles of those. So yeah, the IR and the radar version, very, very OP missile when added. I mean, it will be very scary if they add it correctly. It's a 50G missile initially if it's short range. So very, very interesting that this aircraft will go from having two little missiles that maybe are easier to avoid than an R-27 and a Sparrow, for example, or something like that. Even though the Super 530 can be a very deadly weapon, and the MatAWG 2 as well. The number of the missiles are very limited on here, only having 4. To go into an aircraft that will carry, I don't know, 6 at least Mikas that can actually destroy everything, and it will be one of the best missiles in the game, right? So an aircraft to look at once we have those things, and expect a BR increase when that happens as well. Of course, for Sweden, there isn't much to be added, but it's better than Japan and Germany. The JA-37D, it's an aircraft that already can take the RB-99. The RB-99 needs an M120B variant, okay? So, yes, it can. This aircraft can take, I think the max number is 4 M120s, so it would be very cool. Of course, the good part about that would be to add the Gripen itself, but if they don't add the Gripen, adding the M120 for the vegan would be very, very cool. And then the last nation has technically 2 aircraft. Of course, the first one is the Barak 2. I couldn't confirm if it can actually use the Derby, but apparently it can. You know, most sources claim that it can, because it is basically a Python 4 missile, but radar guided, kinda. It's not really that, but you know what I mean. It's based off of the Python 4, and this aircraft can actually take the Python 4, so I wouldn't doubt to see the Derby missile over here, which is an Israeli version of something like the M120, but he can also take the M120, and I think he used the M120 in the Israeli Air Force as well. So it would be an aircraft that, just like the F-16C, would receive at least the M120As or something like that. And of course, the Kurnas 2000, an aircraft that a lot of sources don't claim anything. They don't say that it can or cannot use the M120 or something like that, but there are a few sources that claim yes, that it can actually take that. So I'm just going through with it that it probably can. So it would be another F4 that can actually take M120s, which would be very, very cool, especially using the Pythons over here, right? So it would be a 3rd generation with M120s, just like the F4FI. So very interesting aircraft. Of course, it would lack in many things like performance and speed and stuff, but in general, it would still have a fairly good radar with some very top tier missiles. So very, very interesting. And this is it, guys. So you can see that only 2 nations basically don't have anything that can be, you know, having the M120s or Fox 3 missiles in general, right? Germany and Japan. Does it mean that they will not receive it when it's added? No, it doesn't mean anything. It just means that for them to actually get something, they need a new aircraft. In the case of the Germans, the most likely option for now is the F4F ICE, as I said, and for the Japanese, the most likely aircraft is either the F-15J or the Mitsubishi F2. And of course, remember, they didn't confirm that every single nation will receive M120s and Fox 3 missiles in general at the same time, even though I kind of believe that they will try to do that for balancing purposes. They didn't confirm that, so we might see some nations receiving some of these missiles and aircraft and stuff in a patch, and then shortly afterwards in the second patch adding the remaining aircraft and missiles that can be added to those nations. Hopefully they add all at once in one patch for balancing purposes, as I said, but we might even see, for example, in the first patch of next year, something like an F-15J for Japanese with M20s, or a Mitsubishi F2, which I think is a little bit more likely, to be honest, but yeah, we will need to wait and see. And yes, guys, are you excited to see these missiles in the game? They're not confirmed yet, but there were some leaks, so we don't know yet. I kind of have a feeling that they will add these missiles, but you know, let me know in the comments what you think about it. I see you guys in the next one. Make sure to subscribe.